All right. Good morning. It is episode 38. I got it right. Of the Schultze Cast, Acadiana Sports Show. Lots to talk about today. We have a presser Thursday with all of the softball teams coming in. So we'll hear from Princeton, Baylor, and Ole Miss. Cajuns are relatively familiar with Baylor. Obviously played them this year, lost 2 out of 3. I have played Ole Miss in the past. And Princeton's going to get their first taste of South Louisiana. They when it gets warmed up north, and we'll see how warm it gets down here. Right, we had the bad weather Monday, not great. Also, first world issues. I think my upgrade hurt my computer, so I have software that protects the computer, and was not mixing properly with my Wi-Fi. Downloading was okay, but uploading is the deal when you're uploading a podcast or a video. Big thing is, the biggest files are downloading these videos to make other videos. And it just wasn't working. Like, I upgraded, got a pretty good deal on it, I thought, and it just wasn't working. So the Wi-Fi guy is coming by today. I mean, that's not bad. I called on Monday, got an appointment on Wednesday. That's not bad. Sometimes those things take like 3 weeks, but the problem is they give you between 12 and 4. So poor me, I can't go to Orange Theory today because I usually go at noon, and we'll just have to hop on the bike. Oh, well, they're not coming until 3:30, right? That's exactly what's going to happen, right? They give you a nice window, and then the window is at the end. Like if I went to Orange Theory, they'd show up at 12:30, but now that I'm not going to Orange Theory, they'll come at 3:30. So what I will have to do is put the software on the computer, and they're going to tell me, this is what they're going to tell me. We don't know the software. We don't know why that's the case. Take the software off the computer, and it works. But maybe I can just get, I got the ultimate software protection. Maybe I can just downgrade a little bit because it worked. Last week it worked, and this week it has not. All right, lots to talk about. On Locked On Sunbelt, I went over the production returning, and this is for football. Cajuns among the nation's leaders in production, returning production. 72%. And we need to make sure we understand this because I didn't understand it. Returning production means college football players that played last year coming back, not players on your team, which is what I thought it meant. Obviously, when you're losing a Jacob Caboti and a Zion Chris, you're losing a lot of production. But you got your quarterbacks back. There's plenty of running backs in the room. Did lose Peter LeBlanc and a tight end, but you have a lot back. And you get some transfers in, although I guess they only got a punter. So they didn't really lose a whole lot. Plus, Ben Wooldridge and Chandler Fields played. All right. Whereas my Orange lost their starting quarterback, and they got Kyle McCord. So they get his stats. So the Cajuns are atop the list of Sunbelt returning production. They're 15th in the nation, 72% returning production. I think they could surprise. The next two are not surprising. The next two on the list are Texas State, although they're 49th in the nation at 65%. And then Arkansas State is also at 65%. They're at 55%. So I don't know if that's, we're rounding up, whatever the case may be. But I find that interesting and then I tried to break it down by divisions. I had it here somewhere. Let's see. Yeah. So Cajuns top the whole Sun Belt, but somebody like Southern Miss is 5th in the West, but they were like 12th overall or something like that, or 11th overall. Monroe pulls up the bottom. They're 30%, but that's intentional, right? Coach Vincent is telling us he's going to, have 3/4 of the roster turned over. South Alabama's 46%. I think the Jags may struggle. That's one of those teams that may struggle. App State's returning 63%. They get their starting quarterback back. We'll see what Coastal Carolina does. And interestingly enough, James Madison, 40%. I think Bob Chesney It'll be interesting to see the difference between what Bob Chesney does, someone who's got a ton of experience as a head coach, versus Del McGee, who does not. It'll be interesting to see how that works out. I would presume, and I don't know this to be the case, but Georgia State, they're pulling in a lot of transfers, and they're getting a lot of kids to come. And sometimes when you skim it on Twitter, I don't know if it's if they're playing this year or for future years, because it looks like Del McGee's doing a great job down there. But I'm going to presume that James Madison's got more talent to begin with, although I guess a bunch of it went to Indiana, right, than Georgia State. So we'll see, because Kurt Cignetti's been taking all their players. But it is interesting because I think the Cajuns could surprise. I guess I don't know if it's because I still think the Cajuns are going to be picked like second or third. Is that going to be a huge surprise if the Cajuns? I think they're going to contend in the West. I do, and then it comes down to usually injuries. It's amazing what you're hearing, in the NBA, because I've always people who follow my show know this. It's not necessarily the best team who always wins. It is the healthiest team that usually wins. Although the Knicks do lead the Pacers 3-2. But usually it's the healthiest team that wins, not always the best team. And now you're hearing that, you don't usually hear that from former players, or commentators. They say you need a little bit of luck to win. A little bit, right? A little bit of luck. All right, it is the show. By the way, do they have that tough of a schedule? Let me see. I looked at LSU, and that's where I'm going to go next. Doing a little football this morning. Raging Cajuns football schedule. I don't know how tough that is off the top. Whereas it's not exactly easy for LSU. Let me see what the Cajuns are. All right, the Cajuns get Grambling, Kennesaw State. They get Tulane, and then they're at Wake. I mean, I presume Tulane's going to be pretty good. I would think that John Summerall has a little bit of an advantage because he knows his team. He knows the Cajuns. The Cajuns know John Summerall, but don't really know Tulane. And then they're at Hattiesburg. I mean, they could... and then they get Wake Forest in the middle there. I mean, they could start anywhere between, let's be honest, 4-1, 5-0. Well, probably not 5-0. We'll see what Wake is. But anywhere between, you want to go all the end, if they're there, if the Cajuns are as good as they think they're going to be, 5-0 to 2-3. All right. But say they start out 3-2 or 4-1, then they're in good shape. Right. Then they're in pretty good shape. All right. On the other side of things, I saw LSU's schedule because they did release the some game times. Florida State and Georgia Tech are playing in Ireland. Is that a big matchup? God. Let me see. Why doesn't this come up here? LSU. Oh, well, we got to do schedule. All right. So the LSU football schedule, they're starting in Vegas, which is fun. Stephen Miller, my Twitter buddy, actually going out to the game, which I think is awesome. But they're starting out, and that's on a Sunday night, 6:30 Central. That's Labor Day weekend. But LSU is starting off with USC in Vegas. They get Nicholls at home, at South Carolina, and UCLA at home. I mean, I guess they could go 4-0. I presume they have the best quarterback in all those games, but, Nussmeier certainly has more experience than some guys, but, they're still I wouldn't say at USC, but in Vegas, all right? Although it'll turn into LSU West, right? I mean, if we don't think that Tiger fans are not going to travel to Vegas for Labor Day weekend, we're kidding ourselves. Whether they get to go to the game or not, right? They're going to make a show of it. And I'm not sure Allegiant Stadium is prepared for all that alcohol. Nichols will be a win, obviously. South Carolina's breaking in a new quarterback, but it's a road game early in the SEC, and you're getting UCLA at home. Who is the UCLA coach? That's the first thing. So we'll put that as a win. All right. Let's see here. Is that the Arizona coach? Who got the UCLA coaching job? Deshaun Foster. Okay. All right. So maybe not as poor a start as I thought. So, I mean, they could start out 3-1. At least, right? Could start out 4-0. You beat USC. They could start out 4-0. They'll have the better quarterback. I don't even know who the quarterback for USC is, but obviously it's not Caleb Williams. So they're breaking in somebody new there. Although the quarterback who played in the bowl game was pretty good. So USC, say they lose that one, but they're probably going to beat South Carolina and UCLA. They could start out 3-1. South Alabama is next. That's probably 4-1. And then the big ball game is Saturday, October 12th. That's going to determine that ball game, one way or the other, is going to determine which direction LSU goes in. Let's be honest. Because let's say they do lose to USC, but rattle off the other wins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're 4-1 heading into Ole Miss. Do they become 5-1 and have a neutral field loss to USC, or do they go 4-2 with a loss at home to Ole Miss? Because Ole Miss is everybody's favorite in the SEC this year. Then they're at Arkansas, which, I mean, I know that's usually been later on in the year when the weather has not been great, but that's not the case now. They should be favored and beat Arkansas. They're breaking in a lot of new things, and Sam Pittman is hanging on by a thread. But then you're at Arkansas, at A&M, and then Bama's coming in. I mean, that is quite the gauntlet. And then at Florida, and then at Florida. So that Ole Miss football game could lead you down one road or lead you down another. I mean, they're going to be favored against Arkansas, should be favored against A&M. I don't think they're going to be favored. And depending on what their record is, could be close against Alabama. I know they beat Alabama, a couple years ago. Alabama's bringing back Milroe, breaking in the new coach. Let's just quickly look what Alabama's schedule is. Alabama's football schedule. See how tough this is. All right, they got Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky at home, USF at home. Then they're going to Wisconsin. That's not that tough. They do get Georgia in week 4. So we'll say 3-1. That's in Tuscaloosa. All right. Vanderbilt is 4-1. South Carolina is 5-1. They're at Tennessee. Clay Travis has Tennessee winning by double digits, so I'll take Alabama 6-1. Missouri 7-1. They could be 7-1. It'll be interesting to see. Yeah, I am intrigued. This is one of the more intriguing LSU football seasons because there's so much pressure on these guys. A, it's a 12-team playoff, and B, Saban called it a career. Right? I mean, if they're talking 6-6 in Auburn, the year that LSU loses the Heisman Trophy winner and 2 first-round wide receivers, come on. All right. A&M's got a new coach. Arkansas's quarterback transfers out. And you're talking about we're going to go 500? You want to see someone get on the hot seat. Watch Hugh Freeze go 6-6 or 7-5 again. I'm not buying that. I don't think they have to. I don't think Auburn's got to, they got to go 8-4. They got to beat somebody. I mean, let's look at that. They got to beat somebody we don't think they're going to beat. I don't know if it's going to be Georgia. And I could be kidding myself with, that they got to be better. So they get A&M, they get Cal, New Mexico. That's 3-0. They got to beat Arkansas at home. That's 4-0. They get Oklahoma at home. By the way, they're not leaving the state of, forget the state. They're not leaving home. They're playing 4 straight home ball games. So they'll start out 4-0. Can they beat Oklahoma? We'll see if Oklahoma's any good. Then they're at Georgia. All right. They're at Missouri. That's not going to be easy. Kentucky on the road, beating Vanderbilt, ULM at home. They'll be favored against A&M, and they can finish up with Tuscaloosa. Finish up at Alabama. If they beat Oklahoma, could they be 5-0? Georgia 5-1, at Missouri 5-2. I mean, I don't know about Kentucky. They should be better than Kentucky. That's 6-2. Vanderbilt is 7-2. ULM is 8-2. A&M is 9-2, and Alabama is 9-3. Easy to do that on looking at the computer. And so I'm counting Missouri as a loss and Kentucky as a win. I did count Oklahoma as a win. It'll be interesting. I'm intrigued by LSU's season in a big way. They've whiffed on these defensive tackles. And Matt Moscona is right. It's just, you don't have to be this great defense. You just can't be the worst defense. Just be middle of the pack defensively. I also brought up getting back to it would be interesting. I mean, maybe I can tweet Bill Connolly because I'm sure that it's changed. Prior to the transfer portal, is that prior to the 21 season? Are we in year 4 of the transfer portal? I know we're in year 4 of NIL, but year 4 of the transfer portal. What is a good college football returning production? Now, these numbers are all skewed because of transfer portal. Like I said, Kyle McCord brings, Syracuse up to 72%. But what's good? If you go smack dab in the middle, which is 67, Liberty is 67th, right? They got 134 teams. 67 is smack dab in the middle, right? My understanding is that there would be no math. Liberty's bringing back 62%. That's smack dab in the middle. Is that good? What was good? Where do you want to be? He does mention it, so you want to go check it out. He did tweet this out. And on the next tweet, last year's top 4 were Kansas, Missouri, Florida State, Michigan. Went from a combined 35-18 to 48-7. Last year's bottom 4 were Kent State, UAB, ECU, and Stanford. Went from 23-27 to 10-38. So it's a little bit of a pretty good indicator. You're returning. LSU, by the way, speaking of that, let's check out what LSU is. LSU, basically middle of the pack, bringing back 64%, and that's, the 36% you're replacing is big time. All right. From Neighbors to Thomas Jr., and obviously Jaden Daniels. So that's a little bit rough. All right. All right, it is the Schultze cast. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, a little bit. How about a little midweek baseball? And I happen to think this was a big ball game. It could just be me. I think that Southern Miss Ole Miss game was important. Looking at the RPI. And more so because who Southern Miss is finishing up with. So, now, last night, following the game, Ole Miss hadn't fallen that. Let's see. They were 24th heading into the game. They are 24th after the game. So they didn't move too much. Now, right after the game, Southern Miss moved up 3. That's where they are. They went from 32 to 29. I think that's big. Solidifies them as an at-large team. And let's be straight, they're playing Texas State, who lost to McNeese last night. Let's see if they fell at all. They were 111 last night. 111 before they played McNeese. They fell to 113. I happen to think that one win over Ole Miss is better than 3 wins over Texas State. So that's a huge win for Southern Miss. It really solidifies them as an at-large berth. And I'm not sure how many teams are getting in, right? I mean, Coastal's got to do a number. I don't know if their RPI, maybe because it's on the road, is going to help against Marshall. But, for a league, for a conference that was looking at, 5 teams getting in right now, it seems to me it's Southern Miss, the Cajuns, and Coastal. But Coastal seems to be on the bubble. Troy is at 48. They got work to do. South Alabama's got work to do. And this is presuming, the Cajuns or Southern Miss, I guess, win the conference tournament. Obviously, if one of those teams win the conference tournament, the idea of me complaining about the schedule and the RPI was to be comfortable heading into, the conference tournament, not needing to win the tournament. I know when they get there, they all want to win. You all want to be champions. You all want to, again, let's be honest, the chances of, a Sun Belt team winning the national championship is not very good, right? So if you can come back from a year where you have won, in the Cajuns, point of view, the regular season and the conference tournament, you've had a good year. And you're going to the NCAA tournament, you've had a good season. All right. Now you win the regional. Now you've had a great season. And now you have a shot to go to Omaha. And that's, again, I know the goal is to end up in Omaha, but since it doesn't happen very often, it's tough to have that in my mind as a realistic goal. But some of these teams, again, Troy needs help. South Alabama needs help. These teams need to go in and win it. Whereas if the Cajuns take 2 out of 3 and win the Sun Belt Conference, which is generally regarded as the 4th or 5th best conference in baseball this year, and they have 40 wins, and they're sitting there, like their RPI went up. Their RPI, I think, went up 1 spot last night. It did. Went up to 38. That's because Southern Miss beat Ole Miss. And so, if the Cajuns are sitting where LSU is right now, basically, if the Cajuns are sitting in the mid-30s with a conference championship and at least 1 win in the Sun Belt Conference tournament, they're sitting pretty. Could very well get a 2 seed. Now, if you pull off the double dip, if you pull off the championship in the regular season and the postseason, you very well could get a 2 seed. You could be positioned pretty well, right? I mean, you're trying to avoid, let's be honest, you're trying to avoid going to a top, 4 or 5 club. You're looking to be like that Texas State in softball, although Texas State probably should have hosted. On the field, I think Texas State deserved a host, but I think the facilities, I saw someone actually tweeted out like they don't have the facilities to host. It is what it is. They're working on it. They're going to get it, but right now they don't have the facilities to host. And so that's why they went to A&M. A&M's got the facilities to host. And so, but A, it's not far. B, you're familiar with them. And so now, could the Cajuns get to a spot where they are heading to, the 14th, 15th, or 16th seed? Texas State is basically seeded 17th. They're the number 2 seed, and they went to the 16th seed. So I think that's where the Cajuns could be going if they can win the conference tournament. Mm-hmm. South Alabama had a good night last night, and we're going to get into all of this. Obviously, I covered South Alabama. I'm a big Mark Kelby fan. He is one of the most intense guys. He knows it. He laughs at it. Stands outside the dugout, kind of stoically. But me and Craig Stevenson would joke, there's like 56 of these. You got to relax, right? And It's not college football where every single game matters, and sometimes it matters how you lose, right? If you lose on a heartbreaker or because you played bad defense or walk some guys, eventually somewhere the other team's going to come through because they're trying as well. He was also there and very kind when my father passed away. So I'm a big Mark Helvey fan. So, they asked me last night around here, and I could suck up to Cajuns fans, but, they know where my allegiances are. I don't think it's a big secret if I'm rooting for Cajuns fans, but no, it's South or South Alabama, just like it's not ULL here or Louisiana Lafayette, right? Big Mark Helvey fan, and too bad that I am. All right. Hopefully get to grab a meal or a beverage tonight. Again, I'm stuck here because of the Wi-Fi guy's coming, but the internet provider's coming. But I am leaving for the weekend, so we won't have a chance for dinner. Maybe lunch tomorrow. Could get lunch on a Thursday. They actually were staying in Hammond last night. They did not. I don't know why they stayed in Hammond. I don't know if someone doesn't want to take the bus ride, so you can enjoy a full day. I guess you get a nice night in Hammond. I don't know what the point of that is, but it's certainly better than going all the way back to Mobile and then getting on a bus and coming over here anyway. So I'll probably be here around for lunch. So it is my world's colliding. I don't know, it's been a minute. Well, I guess it's been a year. So I don't know many of the South Alabama players. I guess is Will Turner still there? And I think he just came back. Anyway, so looking forward to that. South Alabama needs to win the series, but in all intents and purposes, South Alabama probably needs to win one, and they need to win the conference tournament to get in, right? It has not gone South Alabama's way this season. Got off to a great start. Didn't seem to recover from Nebraska. There could have been some injuries in there. And then they just lost some series that they probably should have won. No. All right. It is the Schultze cast. Let's see what else we got going here. There's a lot going on yesterday. Oh, we had the Caitlin Clark debut. So it was funny. I put on the game. I'm watching, as mostly probably everybody else was. So I know I was like reminding my nephew, who was also watching for a little bit. This is a Sun home game, right? Like the Fever won the jump ball and Caitlin Clark got it, and everyone was cheering out. This is a Connecticut Sun home game, right? First time the Sun have sold out since their inaugural game. And they're pretty good. Like these teams had opposite records, and I'll be the first to tell you, I have not. I doubt I've watched I don't know about a minute of WNBA, but I certainly have not watched a whole WNBA game. So the Sun were like 27-13 last year. The Fever were 13-27. And obviously there's a reason why you get the number one pick. All right. So they got Aaliyah Boston last year, and now they got Caitlin Clark this year. So the Fever aren't all that good. You have to take that into consideration. Caitlin Clark, a little bit of an off night. Still, was it 20 points and 10 assists? Did have the 10 turnovers. A couple of touch fouls in there. That's not great. But even my nephew called me out because he flipped over to the Pacers and Knicks, and he's like, "Can you believe this?" I'm like, "I got the WNBA game on." And he's like, "I don't think you've ever typed that sentence before," which is probably true. So I did. I watched. They couldn't quite get there, right? I know. I think the Sun pulled away. They were with like 7 or 8, had the ball numerous times to get it to like a 2-possession game and never could. Also, the biggest thing that I noticed is how quick a turnaround this is. So remember, this is just middle of May. Caitlin Clark was playing the beginning of April. Drafted shortly thereafter. Preseason began the 28th, or I should say camps opened up the 28th. I think preseason started like 2 weeks ago, and now they're playing. What do the guys get? The guys get like 6 months. So obviously the schedule is what it is because they're not going to compete against the NBA. They got to, most of their arenas are NBA arenas. So they got to do it when the NBA is not going on. And so I understand what it is, but the guys are done, middle of March, April. They're not drafted till the end of June. They don't start training camp until like the middle of September. That's like 5.5 months. April, May, at least. April, May, June, July, August, September. 5.5 months. Angel Reese's head's got to be spinning. Caitlin Clark's head's got to be spinning, right? These guys get drafted in June. And, if you're a first-round pick, generally speaking, you're going to sign. You get a chance to move. You can move with your family. You can check out where you're living, right? Now, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese may be different because they're not making the $75,000. I'll rephrase that. Their income is more than the $75,000 a year that they're being paid, on the court. So they're getting all the off the court stuff. So they have plenty to do, plenty of opportunity to find a place to live, but it's fast. It's fast. And obviously they got a lot of obligations. It's one thing if you had like 3 months to get organized and to get with your team and, but man, it's been 6 weeks since they stopped playing college basketball. So I found that fascinating. I did. Yeah. All right. What else do we got? The big news yesterday. Talk about fascinating. This could be the best sports talk show in the history of talk shows. Doug Gottlieb, who's been trying to get the Oklahoma State coaching job forever, former Cowboy, if you will, started his career with ESPN, now on Fox Sports radio. He's going to be the coach of Milwaukee, Green Bay, University of Green Bay, whatever it is. He's got a head coaching job. Doug Gottlieb is going to be a head basketball coach in college with no coaching experience. Father was a coach. I think his sister's a coach. Is his sister USC or UCLA coach? His sister's a coach. So he comes from a coaching tree, but he doesn't have any coaching experience. And now he's doing college basketball and keeping his talk show. Okay. All right. I don't know how that's going to work. With the travel involved, that's going to be interesting. And also, is he taking calls? Because it's not that difficult to sneak in. I don't know if Fox Sports Radio takes calls. Now I got to listen to see if they do. Because, right, I mean, the Nick Saban show and the Ed Orgeron show, they're still doing that stuff. And they get live questions, right? They're like, the people are facing them, asking them. Sometimes they call in. And, Nick Saban had a love relationship with his callers. He would call his callers out. He would have fun with them. And I don't know what the, fan base is of Green Bay, but is he going to take national calls about his coaching? That's going to be hilarious. It is going to be fascinating to see how that's going to work out. The rumor started yesterday. I mean, it happened fast. Maybe it happened even on Monday that he was going to, maybe it happened all day yesterday. I just kind of felt like it was fast, They're Doug Gottlieb up for the Green Bay job, and all of a sudden Doug Gottlieb's got the Green Bay job, and he's keeping his radio job. All right. Now you're making the radio job not seem like it's all that tough, right? Whereas Colin Cowherd's preparing for 3 hours for his radio show. Doug Gottlieb's going to have a lot of show and go. And when's he going to practice? If he's doing an afternoon, he's got to be having morning practices. If he's having afternoon practice, let me see when his show is. Now that we're talking about it, let's see here, the Doug Gottlieb show. Doug Gottlieb show. Hours. Well, first of all, it's only 2 hours. I didn't realize that. Okay, so it says 3 to 6. All right. So it is 3 to 6 Eastern time. So that's 2 to 5 p.m. Central time. Okay. So it'll be interesting to see how this works out. There's ways you can get around this, right? Because he's not got to be getting ready for a basketball game. Obviously, you're not practicing in the afternoon. You're going to practice in the morning. So he's going to go all John Chaney on him. And then he's hosting, and he's going to be talking about like the, AFC Championship game while he's got a ball game coming up. And so the way you get around this, like Michael Kay, big fan of Michael Kay, ESPN in New York, and also the voice of the Yankees. Well, obviously during the baseball season, he's either at the ballpark, if he's got a Yankee game, and I don't think he goes till the end of the show. I could be wrong, but he's got a couple of co-hosts in there with him. So it's not just him. So it'll be interesting to see if Gottlieb brings on a co-host so he can skedaddle and not run up until the time of the game. Like, where's he going to be doing his show on game day? Is he going to be doing a show on game day? I guess you could, eliminate that. And when's he traveling? Like, are they going to leave in the morning? Are they, you got to leave when the kids can leave. So he's going to miss that show. Is he going to, if you leave on a Wednesday, I'd say they have like the Sunbelt Thursday, Saturday. So you leave on a Wednesday, you're going to be able to do that show. What about game day on Thursday? Are you hopping on a plane, or a bus Thursday night, or is it on a plane, Friday morning? Or what happens if there's delays in travel? So not that there could be delays in travel in the Wisconsin area in January or February. No. That whole way, the whole thing, the way that's going to work out is going to be fascinating. It really could end up being like one of the best sports talk shows going, like having a real-time head coach as a talk show host. Mostly ignoring what he's talking about because no one nationally cares about his team, right? That's fine. But for him to be coaching and hosting is going to be fascinating. Certainly, I don't have a problem with Fox Sports, does take up a job. I thought it would be a job opening for somebody, not me. But it would be interesting to see if, how is it going to go. Wouldn't be surprised if it gets tweaked. Wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't come back to the radio show. He's like, you know what? I can't do it. I'll give you, he forget, February or March. He tells him in January, I'll finish up the year, right? We'll go through the NBA season and I'm going to concentrate on the coaching. All right. Or, we try to figure out that whole, how to do it with a co-host. And he's probably not missing that many shows, right? I mean, if you're playing 15 road games, is that 30 shows you're missing with travel? It's not that many when you're looking at it. It's just a lot from, mid-November through, the beginning of March. So is that 4.5 months? So that's not that many shows. No, when you think about it, as someone who did this, there's 260 weekdays in a year. So you're missing 10% of those, wait for Fox Sports to save some money, I guess. So we'll see. That is absolutely fascinating, though. He's going to coach and be the radio host. Also, I mentioned the schedule releases. We got some. Is that? I don't know what that's from. Everybody see that? I don't know. So, I put my thumb up, and then a little emoji came up with a thumb up. Is that the way that works, or did someone do that for me? Anyway. Schedule release. It's NFL schedule release. I don't know how excited I am. I love the whole idea of the offseason and how the NFL breaks it up. And as Evan Cohen said, we're they are knee deep in the NBA stuff with the Celtics, the Knicks, Lakers off-season coaching moves, and then all of a sudden the NFL announces, "Oh, we got Chiefs Ravens. Thanks for coming." All right, so that's going to take that up, and then I think you got Chiefs Bengals. All right, week 2. We got, they had the upfronts is what they call them. And that's basically a way of Yesterday was the ESPN ABC up front, and they announced Jason Kelce is joining Monday Night Football officially. And talking about all the games, I guess we got Notre Dame, A&M. Oh, God. Talk about the most overrated football game of the season. Although that's my guy, Riley Leonard. God, do I have to root for Notre Dame now? Oh, man. That's a problem. I saw Riley Leonard play high school. Called some of his games. God. I gotta be a Riley Leonard fan. Can I be a Riley Leonard fan and not root for Notre Dame? I am torn. Great. Anyway, so they mentioned some of that. Also, the little brother said Eric Schultz was at that, showing me pictures from the upfronts. So they announced some games week 1 and week 2. I did not realize Florida State was playing Georgia Tech. That's a big who cares. All right. It'll be interesting how good Florida State is this year compared to last, right? Jordan Travis is gone, Rodemaker's gone, so it'll be interesting to see how that works out. But the NFL schedule is getting released. The whole thing is getting released, and we get all those social media things. Everyone posted what the Titans did last year. That was funny. You get some real, right? Pelicans did it with Urkel, for their schedule release or something along those lines. So you get some really creative ways of doing it. I don't know if I'm all that into it, because I do happen to think the Patriots are going to be better than most, but that's just me being a little homerism. And I don't know what the Saints are going to be. I don't know I just don't know. Do they have an offensive line? All right. Does Kamara stay healthy? What do they do without Michael Thomas? Is Lattimore on the team? I think there's so many questions about the Saints. And I happen to still think that the division is up for grabs. I'm not a big I'm actually happy for him. I'm not a big believer in Baker Mayfield, but I thought it was great what's happened to him. I think the Falcons are falconing. They don't know what direction they're going in. Everyone's talking about Aaron Rodgers coming back from Achilles, but isn't Kirk Cousins doing the same thing? Why is Kirk Cousins coming back? Is there a big difference between a 36 or 37-year-old coming back compared to a 41-year-old? Really? So I still think it's up for grabs. We'll see. All right. They don't exude confidence. And last year, let me see last year. Did they have, what did they have? 16, 17 games last year? Were 13 of them in a dome? So they get 9 games in a dome just to start the season, right? New Orleans, Saints schedule. Right. So they get their 8 home games in Atlanta. That's 9 in a dome. They got Minnesota. That was 10 in the dome. Let me see the schedule. Okay. 2023. It's okay. Perfect. All right. All right. Let's see here. Excuse me. At Houston. At Indy. At Minnesota. Atlanta counts, so that's 4. That's 12. They had 12 of their 18 in domes at LA. They had 13 of their 17 games in domes last year. 13 of their 17. All right. I don't remember if they dealt with weather, right? They played at Carolina. I feel like that dealt with a fumble. They hung on to beat Tennessee in the first week. That was at home. I don't remember that game at all. I feel like Carolina was a Kamara fumble to begin with. At Green Bay, we know they didn't play well, and Carr got hurt in that ball game. Jordan Love made a big, fourth quarter push. Tampa Bay at Tampa Bay, or in the Dome against Tampa Bay, they just didn't show up. At New England, the Patriots stunk, but they lost their two best defensive players. At Houston, they stunk. Jacksonville at home, bad. They got a win against the Colts. Bears, they stuck by. Wasn't that Tyson Bagent? At Minnesota, Carr got hurt. And playing against Dobbs, I think. Yeah, I just don't know what to make. I really don't know what to make of the Saints this year. So I'm not all that excited about it. Overall, I'm always excited about off-season news. I love the idea that these morning shows are all talking about LeBron James and the Lakers. I love the off-season NBA moves, right? It's not like you don't have – I guess there's only so much you can say because it does look to be like a Denver-Boston collision course, if you will. But I love that stuff. Talk about it. That's the thing. If Doug Gottlieb is doing a radio show, couldn't JJ Redick and LeBron James, for that fact of matter, do a once a week podcast? Although I'm not sure how honest that's going to be. Now you have to, as a member of the media, if you will, you can talk about stuff that doesn't really matter. You start talking about that and you're coaching, it's a different story. That's fascinating. And that'd be a great story if JJ Redick became the Lakers head coach. God, and he's so quotable. That'd be the thing. I'm not sure. It'd be interesting to know, because I don't think muzzle is not the right word. Like, he says what he feels, right? He says what he's thinking. At least it appears that way, right? Whether it's with Chris Russo or LeBron, it filtered would be the better word, right? He doesn't quite have his filter on. And so, boy, if he's the coach of the Lakers, you got to get that filter really quickly. And I'm sure he knows better. He's a longtime coach, I guess, or longtime NBA guy. Bright guy at Duke, all of that stuff. I guess Doc Rivers came back at him. Of course, Doc Rivers was wrong, apparently, but that would be fascinating. I would, as not the biggest of all NBA fans, to see JJ Redick do it. And I love out of the box hires. All right. Like Fran Brown at Syracuse, out of the box hire. Right. It was supposed to be Bob Chesney at Holy Cross. But somebody, turns out, money wise, didn't want the 1AA guy, if you will, the FCS coach coming in. So let's go get the major recruiter who's never been a head coach compared to the guy who's been a head coach for over a decade. Go get Fran Brown. On paper, it looks pretty good. We'll see what happens during the games. Having said the same thing, I don't like I don't know how to say his name. I don't think the Syracuse AD has done a good job since he's been there. He came from ESPN, supposed to have all this TV acumen, and I'm stuck not watching Syracuse games somehow because of some weird contract. Not great. On a side note, with all this conference maneuvering, Syracuse better find themselves in the Big Ten real fast. Just throwing it out there. Because if we're playing musical chairs, Syracuse could be one left standing. That's not great. Really need to find their way into the Big Ten. If this ACC conference dissolves, they better not be they better not be left standing when the music stops, because I think that's what's going to happen. Love myself some Ross Dellinger. He does some great reporting. It's really tough to get my head around everything that he's reporting, but some of that stuff is really dense and over my head. So that's a side note. Side note there. All right. By the way, and really feel bad, the tragedy of the tornado coming through. At least one person lost their life. We saw the video of, Cecilia, devastation, just awful. Right. And, my power flickered on and off. I'm not even sure it was for 5 seconds. having said that, the weather, like the last couple, like it was cool this morning. It's nice. Let's see what the weather is going to be like moving forward as we got this. Well, we got a couple of games, right? We got baseball coming tomorrow and softball on Friday. Let's see what we got here. All right. Again, today, I mean, it is in the, I guess, supposed to get in the high 80s and in the 70s. I mean, it's just absolutely gorgeous. Maybe we get in the 90s. Let's see here if we get another front coming through. All right. Let's see here. So Thursday night PM thunderstorms. Yeah, we got the weekend's not looking great. Hopefully it is. We'll see what Schultz has got to go to Baton Rouge Friday morning. We're going to try and do it on the road. We'll see if that works out. 63% on Thursday in the afternoon, in the evening. Again, that could be at any time, right? PM thunderstorms. I could be anywhere from noon to, 10 p.m. I don't know. Scattered on Friday, 53%. Saturday morning, and then it does clear up after that. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday will all look really good. But it does appear we're going to get weather this weekend. Now, in my limited experience, usually the weather comes through sooner than later. It usually doesn't get pushed back. It usually moves up. So we'll see what happens. Does it hit, Thursday morning, Wednesday night? Usually the weather comes through sooner than predicted. It moves faster than they think. Although they were really on it on Monday. They were all over that most of the day on Monday. All right. Go check out Lockdown Sunbelt. Somehow, again, I didn't press publish, I guess, on one of those Sunbelt podcasts. I got to go back and do that for Monday. But we talk about the production returning all over the Sunbelt. Who could surprise in the Sunbelt and that midweek stuff? Again, big win for, I think, a big win for Southern Miss. One win over Ole Miss is going to be better than 3 wins against Texas State. Let's see if they sweep Texas State, who, by the way, lost to McNeese yesterday. We'll see. They went up 3 spots beating Ole Miss. We'll see if they go up 3 more spots sweeping Texas State. Now, you got to sweep them. No, it's going to be tough to do. But a loss is certainly going to be, I wouldn't say devastating, but heading things in the wrong direction. If you could be a top 30 team heading into this Sun Belt Conference tournament and you win 1 ball game, you're Southern Miss. I mean, Southern Miss is looking at a 2 seed. They're looking at a 2 seed right now, being top 32. So we'll see. Also, again, I'll say this. I still don't. I know what the history says. I still don't think the NCAA is going to leave out Ole Miss or LSU if they're a top 35. If those 2 teams are top 35 RPI, I'm not going to happen. LSU falls into the 40s. Okay. Ole Miss falls into the high 30s. Okay. But I just think those 2 teams are going to get benefits of the doubt. Ole Miss has proven it, right? They're in the same spot. Everyone's been talking about it. They're in the same. LSU's kind of in the same spot LSU that Ole Miss was. And Ole Miss gets in, saves Bianchi's job. They end up winning the national championship. Now, again, I'm not sure LSU is built that way this time around. But, again, we didn't think they were built that way last year. Super Genius lost a bottle of Blanton's because he bet against LSU. They had Paul Skeens and then who? And then they happened to go win a national championship. So, the Gavin Guidrys of the world and Thatcher Hurds of the world stepped up. All right. So who will step up this year? All right. Also, let me see. We do need to do this. I did not do this yesterday. Let me see if we have game notes. We didn't get game notes yesterday. Let me see if we got baseball game notes. I guess I wouldn't be surprised if Blake Marshall is starting again this week. Not nearly as surprised as I was last week. But let's see here. We still do not have the preview up. No, we only got the history. We do not have the preview. All right. So the game notes are not posted just yet. We'll get him eventually. I don't think we got him yesterday. Let's see. Just checking the emails. No. That's interesting too. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't know how technology works. It's very... I don't understand it, but it's just me. You would think that I would be able to easily find emails from somebody by just searching for them, but it doesn't seem to be that's the case. All right. That's just me. All right. Thanks for tuning in. We got the Sunbelt presser on Thursday. I do need to post Jerry Glasgow video from Monday. I don't know my schedule. I don't know. My timing was off yesterday. Thanks for tuning in. The Schultz Cast, please like and review. Up to 57. Oh my goodness, we've gone almost an hour. All right. Thanks again. Have a great day, everybody, and we'll talk to you again on Thursday.